Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to the Spiritual Roundtable, right here at Star Nations Organization's main fan page, where I do about 99.9% of all my live streams. There's that small, less than 1% that I do from my personal page. So, hi, everybody. That's what bonjour means, is hello in Potawatomi. And this is the Spiritual Roundtable. It's Wednesday, May 27th. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Let me tell you, here in northwestern Wisconsin, where I live, it's summer. It's like 80 something degrees out. And I'm downstairs in my office where it's a little cool because we have the AC on. So anyway, today's show is all about the divination card draw that I do in the morning that reflects the energy that's flowing this week for our community, for everybody. Okay. And the intention for that card draw has a lot to do with our joy. And so before we get rolling too far down the road, though, what I need to do a couple of quick things. I need to send the live stream over to my newsfeed so that my friends, I can remind them that I am live streaming. So I'm loving and I'm sending it over to my newsfeed, just letting my friends know. And you know what? I'd invite you to do the same thing or something similar. You can send it to your newsfeed, or maybe you have a friend or family member who really likes to have spiritual conversations, and you can just send it their way through Messenger or something. So I'm just going to remind my friends that I'm live streaming. And to please join us. There we go. It's done. And then I got to send it over to one of our groups. And that is just to remind the peeps, please join us. There we go. And I have to do it there. Good. Good. And now I have to send it to a couple people that I promised that I would anytime I live stream. So hang on just a minute and I'll be ready to go in a second here, depending on how fast my phone is and how quickly we can get it to send. Okay. Slow. There we go. Got to remember to send it to Deb and Marie and Kimberly. And I'll send it over to Cindy Lynn too. All right. I think we got it. Okay, there we go. There we go. Turn down my sound, make sure we're not all squelchy. Yay. Let's see who's in the house, okay? Yeah. Here we go. Rochelle's here. Hello, Rochelle. It's good to see you here. Hey, Rochelle, those pictures that you sent me about of your great-grandson never came through. I mean, they came through, but I couldn't see them. So I'm sure he's adorable, but I didn't get to see him. Hey, hola. ¿Cómo estás, Rob? ¿Cómo estás? Andrew's here too. Hello, Andrew. It's good to have you in the house, guy. Deanna's here too. Good afternoon to you, Deanna. And thank you so much, Rochelle. I so appreciate that. I really do. And Janet's here too. Hello, gorgeous. Back at you. And let's see. I'm going to check my phone real quick. And it looks like Minnie just popped in too. Yay, one of my sisters is in the house. Now, speaking of Minnie's show is coming up right after this one, Nature Connection. So we need to shorten up this show just a little bit, this show, so that I have time to run down the virtual hallway at Be Live, because I promised that I would be a in front row cheerleader in the lobby of her studio, just in case she needs a little helping hand. She probably won't, because she's getting so good at this producing thing. And so we'll need to end this show about 5 or 10 minutes early. Okay. All right. So see, here she is. Hello there. Mighty Minnie, as Paul would call you. Paul has a nickname for Minnie. My husband, Paul, calls her Mighty Minnie because she's mighty. Okay, so today the card draw. When I was getting the card deck out, I had both of them out because last week we used two different decks, right? And so I got them out, and I'm asking my team, so are we using both decks? It's like, no. It's like, so we switched. We switched to this particular deck. We haven't used this one in quite a while. It's called Angels and Ancestors by Kyle Gray, and it is illustrated by Lily Moses. Lily Moses. And if I remember right, Lily is like from Australia, I think. Maybe it's New Zealand. Hang on. Now that's Kyle, the artist. She's from New Zealand, Queensland, New Zealand. No, New Zealand, moved to Australia. Ah, all right. So she's been on both islands. She was born in New Zealand, and now she lives in Queensland, Australia. All right. And the author, Kyle Gray, he is from Glasgow, Scotland. Scottish. All right. So, we've used this deck before many, many times, but it's back in the batter's box, so to speak. Yeah. Now that I tell you what, no baseball yet, right? My mom has been jonesing for baseball, and so yeah, that's where I'm getting that baseball lingo because she was talking about it again this morning. Hey, Kimberly's here too. Hello, Kimberly. Good to have you in the house, lady. So the intention for the card draw has shifted just a tad bit, and this comes from the meditation that I did a couple weekends ago, and was in conversation with my spiritual team about the shows and all things Star Nations. And one of the things that they wanted me to bring to you was the concept and the remembering of joy, because many of us have been around the spiritual block for a couple of times, right? And we're doing our meditations well enough that most of us remember how to hold that vibration of love, even if it's, for only part of the day, right? That's huge. That's a huge, huge step in our soul growth. And so my team is putting to us this challenge, if you will. It is the stretch into remembering what joy is, right? Because that is the next vibration, the next frequency that we'll need to remember how to hold for the fifth dimension, right? And so, yeah. So here we go. This is the intention for this card draw. I was asking my spiritual team to show us the information that's flowing today, the energy that's flowing for the week regarding joy, and what's important for us to know about our soul growth as we stretch into and remember that frequency of joy. Okay? All right. So the first card that came, and you'll recognize this one. Wait, I got to say hi to Carol first. Carol's here. Hi, everyone. I'm here too. I know I see you. Good to have you here, Carol. So this is the first card, and this is all about joy, okay? It's the Traveler. Move in a new direction. Move in a new direction. And here, this particular card, we've talked about several times, but under the frequency of joy, right? Let's take a look at her, feel her, sense her information for us. The first thing that really strikes me is the color that she's wearing, right? It kind of looks pink, like that fuchsia color, along with red, right? And that fuchsia pink color is all about the high heart, right? The red is all about passion. It's an active color. And it is also the color of our root chakra, right? So we have high heart and root chakra going on here. And if you notice, she has what we would call maybe a carry-on bag or a large purse. That's all she's got with her, right? There's a map in the background. So there's some sort of guidance and also a compass, which means we've got help. We've got tools. We've got allies that are helping us. Navigating, right? As we move in a new direction. And as I was looking at that card this morning, drinking my coffee, I was looking at it under the lens or through the filter of joy. And what I came away with is that that bag that she's holding, right? It only has the essentials in it. The things that we really need when we go on a short trip or even a long trip, right? She can only imagine what she may have in that bag. And here's the question to you. Okay. So if you're the traveler, because in this card, we are the traveler, right? And we're going in a new direction. Or maybe it's about remembering that direction, but we're traveling. What would you take in your bag? In your one bag, shoulder bag that we're holding? What would be the item? Let's just talk about one item because there's a whole bunch of them we could talk about, like lipstick. What are the essentials? What would you take? What would you make sure the one item that you knew that you needed to have in that bag to go on a new journey? What would you have in there? It's a journey of joy, journey to joy. Let's put it that way. Journey to joy. What would you put in your bag? Because I had to think about that one. Okay. All right. Deanna says mission accepted. Good. Yay. Hey, Deborah, good to have you here. Asthma inhaler, that's what you'd take. Okay. Well, that's good. We need to have air, right? Need to be able to breathe well. Carol said a snack and a bottle of water. So you take nourishment. Nourishment and water is life, right? Water is life. So both Deborah and Carol mentioned two things that we all need to survive, our physical body to survive. That's water and air, right? Yeah. And of course, Carol's going to take a little music along with her harmonica. Rob says, my guitar comes in its own case. Okay, so you would take your guitar case. There's other things you could probably fit in there too. Hey, Deb, good to have you here. We're asking about the very first card that we got is the Traveler. Right? That's the Traveler. Whoops, don't lose the page. Did I lose the page? Nope, there it is. Okay. So this is the very first card. We've got two cards. The first card is the Traveler. Move in a new direction. And we're talking about the single bag that she's carrying. And I asked the question, your one item that you for sure that you want to take with you. It's an essential item. What would it be? This is our trip to joy. We're traveling to joy. Right? So with the map in the background, we have navigation. We have the compass, which is a tool for navigation. So we have help along the way, right? And if you look at her face, there's no worry or concern there. It's almost like she's comfortable, right? An easygoing traveler. Easygoing traveler. So Rochelle said she'd take blank paper, pen, and water. All right, so you can take some notes. Deb says, my rocks and gemstones. All right, can take more allies with you. Janet said, lipstick. It brings me great joy. Okay. I know that was my first thought too, Janet. It's like, what shade would I take? I take more than one shade. I take my pink and my red probably, and some lip balm too. Janet says essential item water. Yes, good water, right? Deb said she'd take water and food. Okay, so notice how we almost all of us, chose something that was going to nourish our physical body, right? There's joy in that for sure, right? And we are here in a physical body, right? Okay, so here's the second question. In the same bag, what would you take to nourish your soul? What would you take to feed your soul, to sustain your soul? That's a good one. That's a good one. So while you're typing that in, okay, so this next item that you're putting in your travel bag is to sustain your soul. That's hard to say. Sustain your soul. Got to slow down. All right. So here, while you're typing that in, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the author's words on this, okay? It's about moving in a new direction. It says, welcome any opportunities to travel, either to the outer world or to your inner worlds. So being open, right? Whether it's new travel to a physical destination that may bring you joy, right? Or maybe it's an inner journey, inner travel, as you search for your seeking, right? Seeking inward about what is your joy. What is joy? It's a new direction, right? All right. Deanna says smudge toothpaste or toothbrush and food. Okay. Good one. Good one, Deanna. Now, speaking of the soul, what would I bring from my soul, right? What would I bring from my soul? And I would have to say that it was my drum, but more than just a physical drum. It's the concept of the drum. Yeah. It's the concept of the drum, that heartbeat, right? The connection to Grandmother Earth's heartbeat and to the heartbeat of the universe. That was my first inclination. It came in first, was my drum. And it not necessarily has to be my physical drum, but a drum, the concept of the drum. Janet says, God in a pendulum. There you go. Intuition, right? Taking your intuition. Deb says, crystals and smudge. All right, going to clear it up. Carol says, the John Donahue book, To Bless the Space Between Us, or Anam Cara. Oh, so you'd still take something physical. Okay, nothing wrong with that. Something to feed your soul. Rochelle says, Psalm 91, written down on paper, as a reminder. Yeah. What is Psalm 91 about, Rochelle? Minnie says, drum, essential oil, seeds to grow. Oh, yeah. Nurturing something. So Minnie would take the energy of nurturing, right? Yeah. So can you feel how those two questions are, the energy around them is a bit different, right? And the shift in the energy on what you would focus on to take with you to nourish yourself in body and soul, right? And some people were taking things for mind, body, and soul, right? Yeah, it's an interesting way to kind of slow down and reflect on what's important to you, and joy, right? And what's joy? Kimberly is saying crystals in my family album. Oh, so you'd take an ally with you and your descendants and your ancestors. Interesting. How many of you feel like you're travelers? I know I am, and I know Minnie is. We've done many trips together, Minnie and I. So Here's something else that the author has to say. He says the traveler card represents the gypsy spirit within. The opportunity to move in a new direction is coming your way, and ancestral wisdom is encouraging you to welcome it with open arms. Going on a trip is an exciting process because not only do you learn about the world, you also learn about yourself. So this card often comes up when you have a chance to go through a process of awakening and understand even more about the amazing qualities you have to share with the world. Often such journeys can be lonely, but this in itself can teach you that you are never really alone and your angels and ancestors are there for you, right? And so the map and the compass in the background tells me that we're not alone. We have a navigator. If we choose to tap into it, tap their shoulder and say, hey, can you help me out here? What direction am I going in? you know? Am I going in one of the cardinal directions or am I using the crosswinds of the compass, of the sacred wheel? Right? What I like about this one is that what jumped out at me is when he said the gypsy spirit, right? The gypsy spirit. Now, that has some connotations to it, right? It has some stereotypes to it. Some not so kind and some that are very kind. The ones that came to me as I was thinking about that term, the gypsy spirit, is the love of travel, right? That they're not necessarily tied to one landmass or land piece of land. That they're nomadic, right? They travel from one place to another, right? And in a Native culture, Native American culture, many of us were nomadic. My ancestors were nomadic. What they did was they followed the food source. So as the seasons changed, they traveled from one seasonal location to another. And for the Great Plains natives, the indigenous people west of the Mississippi, they too followed the food source. But most of that was bison, right? They followed the herds. As the herds roamed, so did they. Right? And so they have that gypsy spirit. And the other thing that came to me about that was their music and dance, right? And in some cases, that's where they say the flamenco came from, was from the gypsy. Um, yeah, and so the the dance, the joy of it, right? The music of it, and I don't know about you, but here comes one of those stereotypes in the movies, right? Good old Hollywood. In the movies, how they depict gypsies in, like maybe in the early 20th century or so, maybe even the 19th century, where they would have caravans, right? They would travel in the wagons, the covered wagons, and we also then get into the use of intuition, right? The card readers, the palmists, the reading of the palms, the reading of the tea leaves, and how that went, right? Yeah. So it's really tapping into our intuition. And because the intention for the card draw was all about joy, what part of the gypsy spirit could bring us joy, right? It's that free spirit, it's that freedom. Yeah, that's what came to me anyway, that freedom. All right. Let's see what else he has to say about the traveler. He says that the road you are on may be the road less traveled, but this journey is going to be highly beneficial for your emotional and spiritual growth. For your emotional and spiritual growth. And if we can put that into the context of joy, right? Yeah. What kind of emotions come up with that? Do you have any concerns or anxiety or trepidation around that? Especially the traveling, the gypsy spirit, whatever. If you have anything like that, even if you have a fear around it, that's the piece to look at. That's the piece to do some self-reflection about, like, where did that come from? You know? And what's underneath it? What do I need to look at? What do I need to heal, or what do I need to release? Right? Yeah. If it isn't about covering outer distance, it's about covering distance within, and you'll be evolving every single moment of it. Remember to keep things simple and to lighten your load, because that will make your journey even more enjoyable. You're also being encouraged to see how far you've come and how you've really grown as a person, because this recognition will support you in going even further. Okay. So we also have to have that space and time to be able to reflect and say, you know what? I've come such a long way. I know what it feels like to be at the frequency of love. I can remember what that feeling feels like. Even though it was only for a moment, you have that memory because we have love flowing through us all the time, right? And so in this stretch into joy, um, where are the growing pains, right? Where are the um, if you're not flexible and limber, you haven't been doing your stretching exercises, and then you go to do a stretch, you don't go down as far as you used to, or over as far as you used to. So now it's about regaining that flexibility, right? And how do you do that? You continue doing the stretch. Little by little, you become even more limber, right? More flexible. Yeah, there's that flexibility. Geesh. All right. Rochelle says, we used to chant Psalm 91 every evening in the convent. To me, the words give me much comfort. Okay, that's great. But what is it? What are the words? Sorry, I inhaled my spit. Rochelle said, Deb and I are in much needed space to go on an adventure. Yeah, well, you guys are used to doing those road trips too together. Carol says, think of Johnny Depp and chocolate, gypsy spirit. Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true, Carol. And why not think about Johnny Depp, whether he's in chocolate or not? Well, okay, I'm gonna go. Can take a drink of water. Mm. All right. The other piece in this is, what are you going to do to lighten your load? Is there any further lightening of a load, letting go of, releasing of? Because since we've been moving through, what did they call it at first? The great pause, the great awakening, right? The shelter in place stuff. And did many of us did house cleaning. We did spring cleaning, right? We went through things, and we're going to give them away, or we threw them away, or we recycled. So here's another round of it. Maybe if we look at it from that place or the lens of joy, So is there anything that you need to release or would like to release that would be weighing down joy? So we get to look at that too, right? Because you don't want to put that in your bag. You don't want to end up with a steamer trunk that you have to lug around with you, right? So is there anything that you would like to release, to let go of, that impedes, obstructs your joy? You're seeking of joy. You're traveling to joy, right? All right. Rochelle says, it's too large to write down. If you have a Bible, just look up Psalm 91. Okay, I'll do that. Thank you, Rochelle. Chocolate was a movie with Juliette Binoche. Okay. And Deanna is saying, I have driven with my friends from Michigan to a mountaintop in Maine to attend Moon Dance multiple times. Those road trips, aren't those fun? They are fun. And even road trip food is fun. Okay, one last piece here. The author goes on to say that, and there's a good chance that along the way you'll make new friends who will become companions for a lifetime. Okay, so even that last sentence, right? It's about changing, shifting into a new frequency. And whenever we do that, we end up with different kinds of friends, different kinds of people around us. Some of the people that come with us from our past, or our present, are still there, and there's others that aren't. Right? There's others that might say you change too much, and they're not willing to make that leap with you. Right? And that's okay. That's all right. You can still love them. You can still like them a lot. They're just not ready to remember the joy. And that's okay. You can still love them, right? And so you may end up with more friends that are in or on or near the frequency of joy, right? And so, that's the stretch, right? That's a stretch. Hey, Amy Daniels is there. She says, fear of not having stuff to take care of diabetes. Ah, hey, Amy, I got to get ready for this one. All right, let's think, because both Amy and I have diabetes, type 2, right? So let's think about that just a little bit, maybe even feel about it. What we know about diabetes, right, is that our bodies have a challenge, a difficulty in the optimal use of glucose, right, which is sugar, it's carbohydrates. And here's something that I've known for a while, since probably 2010, is that diabetes energetically is linked to the sweetness of life, the lack thereof, right? Or the too much of it. It's out of balance. It's out of balance. So it's really about bringing that sweetness of life into balance on an energetic level, which will eventually reach our physical bodies, right? I believe joy has something to do with that. I do, especially from a Native American point of view. Most of us grew up with the stories and the history of our ancestors and all the trauma, right? It wasn't until recently that we actually started talking about, yeah, we do have historical trauma. We can heal that. We also have historical wisdom that we're just now starting to share and to talk about, right? So it really, for me anyway, it's to be able to look at the diabetes from another perspective, a different frame of glasses, if you will. And it's something to really bring into the discussion, into the conversation. So thank you, Amy, for saying that. She says, insulin, number one thing stopping me. Otherwise, I'd be gone on the road living in the bush. I could see you doing that too. She's not kidding. She would. Yeah, we'll have to talk a little bit about that. I would like to bring Bob Huntington back as a guest, and have another discussion about around diabetes. I think that would be fun. I think he would give us another frame of reference, right? think so. If you guys didn't catch my show from last night, we talked about adrenaline. Well, that too, but the adrenals, the adrenals being an empath, and also about um, healthy respiratory, and also the respiratory viruses such as COVID, right? And the homeopathic route to being healthy. Yeah, it was good stuff. Here's the second card. Look who came back. We had this card last week. Trader. Exchange energy to create abundance. And last week, because it was about joy again, but look, his hand is on his heart, right? And he too is carrying one single bag. Right? I want to see something. Oh, it's very close. I was looking at the pattern of the pillow. The colors are very similar to what the traveler is wearing. It's different. It's a different pattern, but the colors are very similar. Right? Exchange energy to create abundance. Right? I like this guy's eyes too. Don't they look so kind? There's such a kindness there. The message is make connections and exchange information, talents, and support. So when we're on our journey to joy and we're traveling along our way, we meet new friends, right? And you may want to do an energy exchange with them, whether it's a new healer or maybe you found something that you'd like to purchase from them. Maybe it is that pillow, or maybe it is that rug or blanket in the background, right? So with this card, last week it was all about identifying how you do an energy exchange with joy or about joy. How do you exchange your joy? Is there a balance in it? And so he's back with nearly the same message, right? He says the trader brings the lesson and energy of exchange. When he appears, he could represent an opportunity to exchange talents, whatever they may be, in order to expand or be more about the exchange of energies that come from the universe, or both. The trader reminds you to be open and honest and act with an integrity in your exchanges, because doing so brings something to get something, and that will only lead to challenges. So what is your intent for the exchange? Are you doing it out of the kindness of your heart, at a soul level, or is it out of that exchange that what can you do for me? I can do this for you, but what are you going to do for me? Yeah. So to me, it's really about examining that self-reflection again. How do I exchange? How do I exchange energies? Is it a balance? Is it a balance of giving and receiving? Do I look more for what is it going to get me? Right. So having that honesty with ourselves, right? You don't have to share it with anybody else, but if you can do that inner reflection and see, sense, feel how you go about trading, about the exchange. Yeah. And when you do the exchange, what are your emotions around it? right? What are the emotions around that exchange? Can you remember the last time you did an exchange or gave something to someone um, that brought you joy? Can you remember that? Yeah. Amy's saying would be awesome. Yeah, would be to be able to do that with the insulin stuff. Rochelle says his eyes are so accepting. Yes, they are. Kind, very kind eyes. So, one of the other things that the trader has to say to us this week is that the universe operates under the law of cause and effect and is always looking to return to a natural state of balance. A natural state of balance. So this is the time, I'm going to sound like a broken record soon. This is the time, is that to remember to do your grounding, centering, and protecting meditations twice a day, morning and night, making sure that you are covered for 24 hours every day. It's a part of our spiritual hygiene, right? So that when we come to that place of doing that exchange, that we're coming from a place of being grounded, right? That we're balanced. We can enjoy then, enjoy, INJOY. We can enjoy that trade, that exchange. When we're not grounded, when we're not centered, when we're not protected, many times what we experience is the opposite of joy, right? Yeah. All right. So this last piece is if you've been holding back with your offerings, now's the time to change that. Allow yourself to be open, honest, and vulnerable. This can prepare you to open up to even greater opportunities in the coming days, weeks, and months. So when we're protected, we can be as open as our heart desires. When we're grounded and balanced, we can be that way. And so when opportunities come by, we're in a position, a very empowered and strong position to say yes. And also to provide that energy exchange, right? Yeah. Okay. So you know that when we take a look at the two cards together to get the energy read, right? The feeling of both of them together. It's always a good idea to take a deep breath in and call to your spiritual team, your entire team to come to you. They're always here with us. And we're just turning our attention to them, asking them to help you to take in the message, the information, the energy in an optimal way for you, in the optimal amount for you. Okay? So that way, as the week goes on and the energy unfolds around you, you can take a look at it and really understand what spirit is trying to get across to us right now. Right? Okay. So asking your team to be here with you. I'm assuming, you know what they say about that, but I'm assuming everybody is grounded, centered, and protected. Okay. So here are the two cards together. Now, do you see why I had to check on the pattern and the color? The Traveler is the first card that came. Move in a new direction. And the Trader is all about exchange of energy to create abundance. Both places we have allies, we have help, we have assistance. Right? Coming from our hearts, our high heart to be exact. And we have a lot of passion around this, around the joy. It's another leg of the journey. And as we stretch into remembering what joy is for us individually and collectively, remembering how to hold that vibration for even longer periods of time, that energy exchange is going to look quite different. It's going to feel different, right? Yeah, it's a good one. I get two more cards, but we're not going to exactly talk about them because they were personal cards that dropped out of the deck as I was bringing the cards out. Wise One and the High Priest. Look at the birds. Yeah, and it also has the Merkabah with the High Priest. So, this topic about remembering our joy, that frequency of joy, this is what these two cards are about for me as a teacher. And so expect a little bit more from me regarding some things that are coming up pretty darn soon. We're going to be announcing it in the next day or two. We have a 5-day challenge coming up, and it's going to be held in our private group. And it's all about joy, remembering your joy. And so we're going to be working together 1 hour every day for 5 days about identifying what is your joy, remembering your joy, right? And so get ready for that. We're going to get that starts on June 29th, and it'll go to July 3rd. And we'll meet 1 hour every day at 1 p.m. Central, 2 Eastern. And so we're going to start this journey of joy together. And yeah, watch for more information about that. Julie Shumway and I are going to be, Shumway Hill, and I will be sending out some more information about that. Okay. Yeah. Deborah is saying flowers and asparagus. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Wow, is exactly right. I'm looking at the time because, we have to prepare for Mini Kansman. It's coming up in about 10 minutes. So here's another question for you. After receiving the information from the cards for the week, would you be prepared? Are you even interested in remembering your joy and stretching into it, right? Stretching into it. Yeah. It's a part of the path that I think that many of us here at Star Nations are ready for. That maybe we've even been daydreaming about it, yearning for it, right? Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to say the least, to say the least. Jocelyn's saying it sounds interesting. It does. Wait till you see. Got a couple activities for you guys that we're going to be working. You will have homework. It won't be a lot, it won't, because I know that we're all very busy people, but you'll have something to work on and to come back and we'll discuss it that next day. So Deborah is saying, thank you. You're welcome. Oh, thank you for doing the share. Amy says, what if we'd be working during that time for the 5 days? Oh, okay, because it's going to be recorded. So let's say in the evening when you're done with work and you're done with supper, you can go back to the recording, right? Back to the recording, and you can do the activities with us and leave your notes in the group. And if you want, you can also, if you have any questions, you can always contact me, right, Amy? Yeah, you do that. Carol says, must go Zoom with Polly's mom at 3. Okay, good one. We'll see you there. for that class. And Kimberly, wonderful cards. I know, I loved them. Deborah is, I'm very interested in finding joy. Yay, good. Amy says, yes, I believe the important, but don't know what needed to achieve it. Well, we're going to find out. Oh, you're so welcome, Carol. And have a good chat with Polly Joe's mom. your BFF, right? Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to remind you about is that Polly Joe, speaking of Polly Joe, is coming up this evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with Soul Connections. And, that is a kind of, we've always kind of struggled with what to call it because it's not really a show. Because that first half is all about healing, right? It's all about doing your own personal work. It was always meant for to heal the healer. Okay, and so we still haven't found a comfortable word to call that. And the second half is about divine messages. So if you like card readings, that is the place to be tonight. And in between, starting in just a few minutes, is Nature Connections with Minnie Kansman. And she's going to be sharing about fairy gardens and creation. And so, it's going to be a good one. I am going to go and get Mom her snack and get back into the chat room. I'll be in the lobby and in the chat room with you guys for Minnie's show, and also for Polly Joe's show. I'll be in the chat room, so you can join us there. Okay. All right. So if anything that we shared about today resonates with you, my suggestion is to embrace it. Embrace the information coming from spirit and watch, see, sense, feel how the energy is unfolding for you this week and where this information could be helpful to you. Okay. And if it didn't resonate, you know what? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. No worries. You're not hurting anyone's feelings, especially mine. Maybe you're the messenger and you were meant to hear the information so that you can pass it on to someone that you love. Okay. And then you're done. So with that, we'll see you back here next Wednesday for the Spiritual Roundtable and more about joy next Wednesday. All right. So Bama Mina, that's Potawatomi for until we see each other again. And I love you guys. Let's see, we got to turn this off.